Kodu City was a place of light, glass, and fast-moving dreams. Tall buildings touched the sky, white roads shone under the sun, and cars moved like rivers of silver. At the very center of this city stood a very big, very beautiful white house. It was not just a house, it looked like a palace. The walls were bright, the gates were tall and golden, and flowers lined the long driveway. People passing by always slowed down to look. This house belonged to the Johnson family. Mrs. Rose Johnson was the owner of one of the biggest banks in Kodu City. Her bank had many branches, glass offices, and workers who wore neat suits every day. People feared her and respected her. She was calm, bold, and very rich. Her husband, Mr. Peter Johnson, was one of the most powerful lawyers in the city. He handled big cases, defended rich men, and won almost every case he touched. Together, they were known as one of the richest couples in Kodu City. But the real jewel of the Johnson family was their only daughter. Her name was Mary. Mary was very beautiful. Her skin was fair and smooth, her face was soft like morning light, and her eyes were bright and intelligent. She was tall, graceful, and always carried herself with calm confidence. When Mary walked into a place, people noticed. When she smiled, hearts melted. She was not just beautiful, she was very intelligent too. She read a lot, spoke well, and understood things quickly. Many people said she would one day run her mother's bank or even become something greater. Every man in Kodu City wished to marry Mary. Rich men, business owners, politicians, oil dealers, tech company owners, even men from other cities came just to see her. Some came with expensive cars, others with gifts that filled the living room. Gold, diamonds, clothes, perfumes, foreign shoes, and even offers of houses were brought to the Johnson mansion. Sometimes, men fought because of Mary. Two men once argued loudly at the gate about who arrived first. Another time, two rich brothers stopped talking to each other because both wanted Mary. Some men tried to use power, some tried money, and some tried sweet words. The noise became too much. Mary became confused. Every day, new faces appeared. Every day, her parents asked her, "Which one do you like?" But Mary did not know what to say. How could she choose when everyone wanted her for different reasons? Some looked at her beauty, some looked at her parents' wealth, and some only looked at her future. At night, Mary would stand by her window, looking at the bright city lights, thinking deeply. She wanted love, real love. Someone who would love her even if she was not rich. Someone who would stand by her even if life became hard. But how would she know? Unknown to many people, there was one man who had loved Mary quietly for a long time. His name was Udoka. Udoka was poor. He came from a very poor home on the edge of Kodu City, where buildings were old and roads were rough. He lost his parents early and struggled through school by working small jobs. He was very intelligent, but life did not favor him. Still, he never gave up. He read books, learned skills, and believed that one day his life would change. Udoka met Mary during a public city program where young people spoke about ideas for the future. Mary spoke confidently on stage, and Udoka listened from the back of the hall. That day, he did not fall in love only with her beauty, but with her mind. Since then, Udoka admired her from afar. He never went to her house like the other men. He knew her parents would never accept him. Once, when he tried to greet Mrs. Johnson during a public event, she looked at his worn shoes and simple clothes and turned away. From that day, Udoka knew his place. Still, he loved Mary. Mary noticed him too. She saw how he listened when she spoke. She saw how respectful he was. Sometimes they exchanged simple greetings, nothing more, but something was there. The pressure on the Johnson family became too much. Men kept coming, fighting increased, rumors spread across the city. Mrs. Johnson began to worry about Mary's safety. Mr. Johnson worried about choosing the wrong man for their daughter. One evening, the family sat together in their large living room. The city lights reflected through the glass walls. "We need a plan," Mrs. Johnson said calmly. "A serious plan," Mr. Johnson replied. "We must know who truly loves our daughter." Mary listened quietly. That was when the plan was formed. The next week, news spread across Kodu City. Mary was sick. Very sick. It was said that she was rushed to a big private hospital in the city. Doctors were seen moving fast. The Johnson family looked worried. Then the final news came. Mary had a kidney problem. The doctor announced that if Mary was to survive and marry, her husband must be willing to donate one of his kidneys to her in the future. The city shook. Men who once shouted love became silent. Men who brought gifts disappeared. Phone calls stopped. Visits reduced. Some men made excuses. Others said their families would not agree. Some even claimed they had health issues. Fear entered their hearts. Within days, almost all the men who wanted to marry Mary vanished. Mary watched everything quietly. Her heart was heavy, but her eyes were open. One day, while she sat in the hospital room, someone knocked gently. It was Udoka. He looked nervous, but his eyes were steady. "I heard you are sick," he said softly. Mary looked at him. "Yes." He swallowed. "I also heard what the doctor said." Mary nodded. There was silence. Then Udoka spoke again. "If it will save your life, I will give my kidney." Mary froze. She stood up slowly. "Udoka, do you know what you are saying?" "I do," he replied. "Life is nothing without love. If my life can save yours, I am ready." Tears filled Mary's eyes. News reached her parents. They were shocked. "The poor boy," Mrs. Johnson asked in disbelief. "Yes," the doctor said. "He signed the form without hesitation." Mr. Johnson sat down quietly. That was when the truth became clear. Days later, all the men who once came to marry Mary were invited to the Johnson house. The hall was filled. Fear and confusion were on their faces. Mrs. Johnson stood up. "My daughter was never sick," she said firmly. "It was a test." Silence filled the room. "You all ran away," Mr. Johnson added, "except one man." Udoka was called forward. This man loved Mary not for money, not for beauty, but from his heart. Mary walked to Udoka and held his hand. At that moment, everything changed. But life in Kodu City was just beginning to respond to this shocking truth, and the future of Mary and Udoka was about to take a new turn, one that would test love, power, and destiny in ways no one expected. The hall inside the big white house in Kodu City was silent after Mary held Udoka's hand. All eyes were on them. Some men felt ashamed. Some were angry. Some could not even look up. They had claimed love. But when sacrifice came, they disappeared. Mrs. Rose Johnson looked at Udoka for a long time. This was the same young man she once ignored because of his poor clothes. Now he stood boldly, not begging, not shaking, but calm and sure. "You were ready to give your kidney," she said slowly. "Why?" Udoka took a deep breath. "Because love is not about comfort," he replied. "It is about life." That sentence entered the hearts of everyone present. The men were dismissed one after the other. The big white house that once received noisy visitors became quiet again. For the first time in a long while, peace returned to the Johnson home. Days passed. Mary and Udoka began to spend more time together, this time openly. They walked through city parks, sat in quiet cafes, and talked about life, dreams, and struggles. Udoka spoke about growing up with nothing, about sleeping hungry, about studying with borrowed books. Mary listened carefully, sometimes with tears in her eyes. She realized something important. Udoka did not see her as a prize. He saw her as a person. Their love grew slowly but deeply. It was not rushed. It was not loud. It was real. At first, the city did not accept it. "Why will Mary choose a poor man?" people asked. "After all the rich men," others said. Blogs talked. Social media argued. Some mocked Udoka. Some praised Mary's courage. Kodu City was divided. But love does not answer noise. Mr. Peter Johnson began to observe Udoka closely. He tested him with conversations, questions, and even silence. Udoka never tried to impress him with lies. He spoke honestly, respectfully, and wisely. One night, Mr. Johnson called Udoka into his study. "Do you know what it means to marry my daughter?" he asked. Yes, sir, Udoka replied. It means responsibility. And do you know, you may never be accepted by everyone. Udoka nodded. I am not marrying everyone. I am marrying Mary. Mr. Johnson smiled for the first time. Mrs. Johnson still struggled. As a bank owner, she was used to power and standards, but something kept troubling her heart. She remembered the day Udoka signed the kidney form without fear. One afternoon, she called Mary. Do you truly love him? She asked. Mary looked at her mother and nodded. Yes, Mama, he loves me even without money. That answer broke something inside Mrs. Johnson. She finally understood. The engagement was announced. Kodu City shook again. This time, it was not shock but wonder. Preparations began. The wedding was planned to be one of the biggest the city had ever seen. Fashion designers, event planners, and media houses lined up. The wedding would not just be a union, it would be a message. During this time, Mrs. Johnson made another decision. She called Udoka to her bank office. I have watched you, she said. You are intelligent. She offered him a job. Not as a favor, but as an opportunity. Udoka became a bank staff. He worked hard. He learned fast. Colleagues respected him. Slowly, he began to rise. The wedding day came. Kodu City was bright. The White House was decorated with flowers and lights. The roads were blocked. Music filled the air. Mary looked like a dream in her white dress. Udoka stood proud in his suit, no longer ashamed of his past. When they said their vows, there were tears everywhere. From nothing, Udoka said, you chose me. From everything, Mary replied, I found you. They were declared husband and wife. The city clapped. Life after marriage was not perfect. They faced challenges. Udoka faced pressure at work. Mary learned humility, but they faced everything together. Years passed. Udoka grew in the bank. He became one of the smartest workers. Mrs. Johnson trusted him. Eventually, he became one of the top managers. Mary supported him. They lived in love, respect, and peace. Kodu City learned a lesson. Love is not money. Love is sacrifice. Love is truth. And in the middle of the city of noise and pride, a poor man and a rich girl proved that real love still exists. That is the end of my story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more interesting stories.